One of the most interesting events in the previous season was Verstappen's announcement that he would no longer participate in the reality series Drive to Survive. However, it appears that the Dutchman has changed his mind for some reason and he will appear in the latest season of the show, which is set to premiere on February 24th of this year. Rest assured that the fans weren't happy with this decision, calling Verstappen a hypocrite among other things. But is there a genuine reason behind Verstappen's decision? Drive to Survive is most likely the primary reason for the sport's increased popularity, particularly in the United States of America. The show started to cover seasons in Formula One, and it gave a different aspect to the lives of the Formula One drivers and what goes on behind the grid. However, given the fact that it's still a show, some drama was included, and according to many drivers and experts, it's not necessary because it doesn't show the real relationship between the teammates and the drivers. Nonetheless, Verstappen wasn't really satisfied with how he was portrayed by the show, which is why he made the decision to not be present and to take a break from it. Obviously, the 2021 season was one of the fiercest in Formula One, and the show had a lot to cover, meaning that drama was involved in places that it shouldn't have been. With that being said, Verstappen was very disappointed with his presence and how the fans were supposed to portray him thanks to the show itself. This is something that he's spoken about, further adding, "I understand they want to bring more fans to F1, and it works, but a lot of scenes are literally copied and pasted, even with sentences, things that have been said and that I know were not said at the time wanted by the editors. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter to someone who doesn't understand Formula One. They discover the sport and will quickly forget about it. But if you're a die-hard fan, DTS is not realistic. You're looking to see the season from another angle, and some of the montages have shocked." This was one of the main reasons behind Verstappen's departure from the series and the documentary overall, but now, in the new trailer, the fans were able to see that Verstappen is present after all, and he will be featured in the 5th season of the show. Before we go into the scrutiny that Verstappen received from the fans and what their general opinion of this move is, let's see what he had to say about his decision in the first place. Obviously, Verstappen was asked about it, and it seems like the two-time world champion feels some sort of responsibility to be present in the media through shows like this, which is why his decision to come back to the show was inevitable. When talking about this matter, Verstappen added, "So it's good to have found solutions to see what we expect from each other, and I think the interview I gave them was good. I just wanted to keep it real, no fake stuff, no overhyped things. I know it's important for Formula One that the champion participates, so we reached an agreement and I'm very happy about that." It seems like Verstappen and Netflix have found a way of working through the problems, and that is something that will delight the fans the most. Verstappen was the most dominant driver in the 2022 season, and apart from his record-breaking season, where he won 15 out of 22 races and broke the record for most points in a season by a driver, there were some moments that the fans would love to hear about, such as the Interlagos incident between Verstappen and Perez. After Verstappen refused to give back the place to Perez, the Mexican said some words on the team radio, and this is likely going to be covered in the Netflix original series. Apart from that, Verstappen's presence regarding the dramatic events wasn't really something too big of a deal, and the fans are going to pay more attention to the drama that was going on in Ferrari, as well as some other stuff like Alpine's situation with Oscar Piastri. Nonetheless, the fans aren't really happy with Verstappen's decision to come back in DTS, especially after everything he said about the show. One fan accused Verstappen of manipulating Netflix and attempting to sway the narrative in his favor, adding on Twitter, "Now Max wants to be in Drive to Survive, after every narrative is flipped in his favor. The same person who called it fake for many years, suddenly it's okay when he's winning. The hypocrisy is crazy." Another fan asked what kind of promises were made to Max to get him back after he called it a fake show, and it's obviously something that Max would have to explain further once the show airs. We doubt that we'll see any genuine reason throughout the show when it comes to his involvement being present again, and even if he has a positive thought with his intention to come back to the show, one couldn't help but wonder what has happened in his head for this decision to be made. What many people ought to forget is the fact that Red Bull was scrutinized for the cheating scandal that happened in the 2021 season, and that is something that has put a black mark on Verstappen's championship. On top of that, the season finale was also something that Verstappen has had to deal with throughout his 2022 season, and while many think that he has genuine thoughts behind his decision to come back to the show, Others believe that it's only for Verstappen to bring back some good glory to Red Bull. Once the show starts to portray the team as dominant and as one that has absolutely torn up the competition in 2022, the narrative of them being cheaters in the 2021 season is something that will likely change, at least among the fans. Just like Verstappen says, if you aren't a die-hard fan, DTS is something that can manipulate the way you perceive Formula One. Therefore, why not use it to your own favor? As we mentioned earlier in this video, Verstappen isn't the only one who has had negative thoughts about the show in the past. We know that in 2021, the fourth season of the show wanted to portray the rivalry that exists between Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris, two drivers who have had a very eye-catching time as teammates. Norris has proven himself as a driver that McLaren can count on to be the #1 choice on the team, and while the team has put lots of hopes in Ricciardo to be a driver that will bring wins and podiums on a regular basis, that didn't turn out to be true. Still, that doesn't mean that Norris and Ricciardo are in a bad relationship. Norris has put out some bad words about the show, saying that the things that he said in the show were definitely not said at that particular time, and it seems like the editors were having a field day with their statements. When talking about this matter, Norris added, "There's a bit of me and Danielle going side by side, and I claim he pushes me off, which is from a completely different race. As long as they don't overdo it, make someone look like they have done something they definitely haven't, I think that's too far." Still, the F1 drivers shouldn't be really mad at DTS for portraying what they are portraying, because obviously it works. The show has brought in a lot of new fans, especially from the USA, and now there are going to be 3 races on this continent in the next season. On top of that, the total revenue at the end of the year has increased massively, and new teams and sponsors are pouring into the sport. Who would have thought that F1 would recover so well from the COVID-affected season, and who would have thought that the sport would reach such popularity in the States, a place where NASCAR didn't have any competition apart from the IndyCar 500? Now, a team that is very successful in the IndyCar 500, Andretti, wants to invest in Formula One as well, which is a huge improvement for the most elitist sport on the grid. Definitely, there are going to be some things that we are more than eager to see how they will play out in the show, such as Piastri refusing to drive for Alpine and the saga between Ocon and Alonso, who didn't turn out to be a well-matched pair at the end of the day. Normally, we would want to see how Mick was treated by Haas and the decision of his replacement by Nico Hülkenberg, which is why it's very likely that the show will lose a lot of new viewers again. What do you think about Verstappen being back in DTS? Do you think that's a fair decision for him as a champion? Let us know in the comments below.